Chapter 7. He's dead? The people who broke in, they killed him? I stammered. No, Mr. Johnston whispered. But you said he was dead. He is, Mr. Johnston said softly. But if they didn't kill him, I did. You killed Bogart? I couldn't believe my ears. He was badly hurt. It looked like he was having trouble speaking. I think they must have stomped on him. A lot of his ribs were broken and his eyes were punched out. I took a deep breath and tried to say something, but what? What do you mean, punched out? Augie asked. It looked like they took something, maybe a compass from a math set or a pencil or a screwdriver or I don't know what. They poked his eyes out. A shudder went up my spine and I felt ill. I can't even imagine, he said, shaking his head slowly. That's awful, I said. Poor Bogart. He would have been in so much pain. That's why I had to do it, Mr. Johnston said. I had to. Put him out of his misery. He said the words, forcing themselves out. I gave him an injection so he would just go to sleep. I thought he was going to start crying. I knew how he felt because that was exactly how I felt. I also knew what he was trying to fight. I also knew that he was trying to fight back the tears as hard as I was. Poor old Bogart, Mr. Johnston said. He never hurt anybody. He paused. I can't even imagine somebody doing that. Then I saw the first tears start to flow from his eyes. Even though I'd seen it coming, I was shocked. I'd never seen a teacher cry. Never seen a man cry. I guess my father must have cried when my mother died, but I never saw him. Somehow seeing Mr. Johnston in tears dried up the ones that were struggling to form in my eyes. He sniffled loudly and then wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. I need some time alone, Mr. Johnston said as he turned away from us and started to walk to the door. I guess he didn't want us to see him cry. And boys, he stood holding the door open with one hand his back to us. Thank you for everything you're doing to help. Thank you so much, he said, his voice cracking over the final few words. And then he was gone. Augie and I looked at each other. I struggled to find something to say, tried to put into words what I was feeling, but nothing came to my mind. We better keep working, Augie said. I nodded. Augie was right. There was still a lot to do here, and there was nothing I could do to bring Bogart or help Mr. Johnston, to bring back Bogart or help Mr. Johnston. There was absolutely nothing I could do to make things better, except help clean up. I struggled to take off my t-shirt. It was plastered to my body, soaked in sweat from the basketball tryout. That was a workout, Augie said as he sat down beside me on the bench. All around us, the other kids trying out for the team, the senior team, were standing or sitting, talking, laughing, and getting changed, either to leave for home or to take a shower before going. There was no way I was going to take a shower here. Something about standing around naked with a bunch of other naked guys while cold water came squirting out of the walls held no appeal for me at all. The times I had to do it after gym class or before we could go into the pool was bad enough. When I had a choice, like after practice, I just changed and went home and had a bath. A bubble bath. It was one of those secrets that I think everybody has. Sitting in a hot bath, the bubbles rising over the top of the tub, the door closed, a book in my hand, and a can of Coke sitting on the ledge beside me was almost perfect. Nobody in the world except for my father and my sister knew that I took bubble baths, and there was no way I wanted anybody else ever to know. You did pretty good. I really am getting tired of talking over people, so I don't want to hear it. I don't want people making faces. I don't want people doing dumb things. Just listen. It really isn't that hard. You did pretty good, I said as I took my towel and tried to wipe off some of the sweat. That's more than I can say about you, Augie said. I've done better. That's an understatement. You didn't take a single shot during the whole scrimmage. Shooting isn't everything, I said. Not everything, but you didn't do anything, he continued. I couldn't believe a couple of those passes you tried to make. He was right, of course. I guess I just wasn't into it today. Look, if you just want to be on the junior team, don't even bother wasting your time coming to the senior tryouts. It isn't that, I said. Then what? I just couldn't stop thinking about the break-in. You and everybody else, that's all people talked about today, Augie said. I was trying to think what we could do about it. We've cleaned up the room and found all those animals. I want to do more. Other than tracking down the people who did it, I can't figure out what more we can do. I thought about that too, I admitted, pulling on my pants over my shorts. Augie gave me a horrified look. You're not serious, are you? I heard the police found some stuff the guys who broke in must have dropped. Some of it in the schoolyard and more out in the alley. They probably took off through that hole in the fence. It wouldn't surprise me if it was those high school guys. You know, Jimmy Saunders and his crew. You don't want to tangle with them. They'd kill you. Of course, Augie was right. It could have been Jimmy. He was one of the guys who had been roughing up kids for their lunch money. He was only a couple of years older than me, but he was more like a grown-up, a scary grown-up. Maybe they'd decided to move up to doing break and enters at the school. I figured if a person didn't have any respect for people, he probably wouldn't think twice about killing a snake. I could see people like Jimmy Saunders doing something like this, Augie said. But that doesn't mean you're going to try to do something about it, right? That's up to the police. Besides, that wouldn't help Mr. Johnston. So what do you have in mind? Augie asked. That's the problem. I don't have any idea whatsoever, I admitted. That's what I was thinking about all through school today. And on the court as well? And on the court as well. I better get going, I said, standing and doing up the last buttons on my shirt. What's the rush? I've got to get home. I've got things to do, I explained. What I had to do was get supper started, but I didn't like to announce that to people. There's still plenty of time before your father gets home. There is, but remember, I have to stop in and give Garfield another treatment on my way home. That's right, Augie said, jumping to his feet. And Garfield needs our help too. Just give me a minute to get ready. I'll grab a quick shower and... I don't have time for that. Augie lifted up an arm and sniffed one of his armpits. I stink. I don't want to go over there when I stink. Couldn't I just wash up a little first? No time. Either come now or don't come. Fine, Augie said. I'll come, but I'm not happy. If Elise wrinkles her nose like she smells something bad, I'm going to point at you. I still had to wait another 10 minutes for Augie to get ready. He insisted on splashing on some aftershave, rolling on some deodorant, and running a comb through his hair to try to flatten it out. Augie's hair was permanently frizzy. So do you think she likes me? Augie asked as we walked up the street to Elise's house. Does who like you? Elise, of course. I shrugged. Beats me. But why wouldn't she like you? You helped with her cat, and you explained things so she could understand osmosis better. Yeah, you're right. Why shouldn't she like me? Augie exclaimed. We walked up the front path to her house. Because you stink, I said with a smirk as I pushed the doorbell. Do I really? Augie started to say when the front door opened and Elise appeared. Hi guys, come on in, she said. I was beginning to think you'd forgotten. Of course we wouldn't forget, Augie said. We had basketball. Are you two on the school team, she asked. We're trying out, I said. Just a formality. We're two of the best players in the whole school, Augie added. And two of the most modest as well, Elise said. I couldn't help but laugh as Augie cringed slightly. Could we see Garfield, I asked. I really have to get going soon. Sure, of course, she said. We followed her into the kitchen. Garfield was sitting in his basket in the corner of the room. Bring him over here, Augie. Can you fill the basin, please? I said, motioning to the container on the counter. Elise picked up her cat while Augie went to the sink and started filling the basin with warm water and Epsom salts. She placed Garfield on the table in front of me. How's it going, boy? I asked, rubbing him behind one of his ears. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a cat treat with a piece of pill lodged in it. Garfield readily took it from my hand and swallowed it. He rubbed against my hand. He didn't seem to be favoring the bad leg at all. I picked up Garfield and put his foot in the water. He didn't struggle nearly as hard this time. He seems a lot better, I noted. He is, and I want to thank you two so much, Elise said. That's okay. I was thinking about Mr. Johnson and how how sad he must be about losing some of his animals, Elise said. He was pretty upset, Augie said. I know how that is. I lost a cat. You did? When? His name was Tigger, like from Winnie the Pooh. He just disappeared. We searched for days and days. That's hard, I said. I lost 2 cats that way. And then about 2 weeks after Tigger disappeared, my mother brought home Garfield. We still missed Tigger, but somehow having Garfield made it hurt less. Yeah, I guess that would help you too. I stopped mid-sentence. That was it. That's what we're going to do, I shouted as I jumped up, releasing my grip on Garfield. He scurried away, spraying water as he leapt off the table. What are you talking about? Augie demanded. I know what we have to do, I said, looking first at Augie and then at Elise. We have to buy Mr. Johnston another boa constrictor.